channel. And this is Dakota, our 1-year-old Eurasier dog. She's very excited to be on camera today. Enjoy your window, sweetie. We're talking about you. Since Eurasiers are a rather rare breed of dog, I thought it'd be a good idea to make a video to teach everybody about everything that we learned taking care of Dakota for the last year. And boy, is there a lot of things to cover. So without further ado, let's get started. One of the most important things that you need to know when you have a Eurasier is all of the grooming that is required. As you can see, Dakota has a very beautiful coat of fur. It's actually 2 layers of fur on her because she is a winter dog, and so Norway, where we live, is perfect for her, but it does require a lot of brushing in order to maintain it and make sure that it doesn't have any gnats or tangles deep under those layers. That does require brushing her every single day. You don't have to do a thorough brushing every day. We usually do about 5 minutes of brushing her every day, and fur comes out every single time because a lot of fur can get trapped in her undercoat. Especially now when she has her winter coat on, there's even more fur than normal, so you have to be extra careful about brushing them and making sure that the grooming is done in a timely manner. Eurasiers also have 2 shedding seasons throughout the entire year. So we noticed for Dakota, her first one was around Easter, so like March or April, and then she had another one at the end of the year around October, November. So this was when we had a lot of shedding and you had to brush her every single day and you would get tons and tons of fur coming out of her. So it's really important that you brush them extra during the shedding periods, otherwise all that fur will get trapped and it'll make it a lot harder to brush her going down the line. Another thing that was very useful that we did with her grooming was always making sure to touch her paws from the time she was a little baby every day up until now. So touching her paws every single day made her used to us touching them because you do have to do a lot of paw and claw care for Eurasiers. We have to moisturize her paws quite a bit because they get very dry and cracked, especially in the winter time. So you have to make sure that your dog is used to you touching them and putting this kind of like special ointment on them. Also, the reason why we like to touch her paws a lot to desensitize her is so that when we do the claw clippings, she does not pull back and she's not extra reactive towards any of that. We've tried to do the claw clipping, but it is quite difficult. So what we do instead is we train her so she's used to claw clipping when we take her into the vet to get it done. We've talked to our vet and the way they recommend you do this is that you hold the dog's paw and then you have clippers, but rather than actually trying to go in and clip the nails, if you're not comfortable with that, what you do is you just clip them in the air to make the sound so the dog is used to you holding their paw while that sound is happening. So then when you do take them into the vet to get a real claw clipping done, they're already used to all of that. We've tried to clip her claws ourselves, but it's rather difficult and it's just safer that the vet does it for our situation. The last thing that we do for Dakota's grooming is brushing her teeth. So this is another thing that we started from basically day 1 that we brought her home. We had this toothbrush, but honestly, a human toothbrush works just as well as a dog one. And we have this special dog toothpaste. The dog toothpaste that we like to use is meat flavored, and then we have a second one that she's not as big of a fan of, which is cheese flavored. But the meat one she really likes. We've tried a couple different ways. We've tried it with the toothbrush that you can put on your finger, but that one wasn't as easy. She really likes to chew the toothbrushes though, so putting the toothpaste on that made it a lot easier to brush her teeth. And this is something we do not every day, but maybe every other day to try to maintain her teeth care. Those are the main things that we do taking care of Dakota from a grooming perspective. Just to recap, it's to make sure that you brush them every single day. You have to take care of their paws every single day with moisturizing them or having ointment, train them to get used to claw clipping, and then also brush her teeth at least every other day. The second most important thing we've done with Dakota is training. There's a lot of different things that you need to train your dog within the first year, and this is some of the things that we've taught her. Some of the basic tricks that we've taught her over the past year are things like sit, stay, come, lay down. We've taught her some cute ones too, like high five or shake. She can also do this like very cute begging position that we call teddy bear, and we're still working on heel. She just likes to pull a lot when she's on her walks, so that's something we're still working on, but she's getting better every single day, especially when you hit this 1-year mark with a dog. They can maybe go from being this perfect little angel to really challenging you and trying to press your boundaries, sort of like a teenager would. So it's important to really maintain those hard boundaries with your dog, be consistent with the training, and just try to get over this difficult period of time to a point that they do listen to you and it is easy like it was in the beginning again. And for us, that is mainly the pulling on her walks. So we do have to work extra with this heel training. Another thing that we do with the training is really practicing the recall with her in a lot of different scenarios. goes. One way we do this is by letting her off leash and playing frisbee with her, and then always practicing the recall to make sure she comes back to us. Before we ever let her off leash though, we always practice to make sure she's returning to us when we do recall, even before we take her off the leash. And you have to make sure that there's like not a lot of distractions when you do this, because maybe she would get distracted and run off. So it's important that you always do these trainings in very safe environments. Another thing that is very useful with the recall training is not just having her come to you when she's off leash, but we also use it to try to train her with barking. She is a very territorial dog. I think Eurasiers in general are rather territorial of their homes because they are such big family dogs. Their entire purpose is to just be at home and be with their loved ones. So that naturally makes them a bit more wary of strangers and more protective of their homes. They're not aggressive or anything. They're all bark and no bite, but it does get a little annoying. So something that we've been working with to train her against this is whenever we start to hear her growling, what we do is we recall her and distract her. So we'll tell her to come to us, and then we'll give her some treats, and then we'll have her do some tricks, and the next thing you know, she's forgotten all about what she was trying to bark at. But it's really important with this kind of recall training that you call them back to you before they bark. So you want to listen out for growling or cues that she's getting ready to bark, and then call her before, because otherwise she might get confused that you're rewarding her for the barking instead of rewarding her for coming to you and not barking. It is rather tricky, but consistency is key, and because we work from home, we're able to practice this all day, every day, and it has gotten a lot better over time. And last but not least, the final training that was really important for us to do, especially with a Eurasier dog, was to do alone time training. Because Eurasiers are such social animals, they get really attached to their humans and they hate being left alone. These kind of dogs are very high risk for separation anxiety. So this was something we knew about going in, and we had to train with it from day one. You don't want to like do it cold turkey from day one with your puppy, but you know, you just kind of give them some food, maybe they're distracted, you leave the room for maybe 30 seconds and then come back in, and slowly over weeks and weeks you increase that 30 seconds to a minute to 5 minutes, and eventually maybe it's a whole hour. So it did take us several months, but maybe around the time Dakota was entering 7-8 months, she was able to be alone for like 5 hours, and then over the next 6 months of her life, we were slowly able to increase that 5 hours to about 7 to 8 on the maximum. But she's never been alone longer than that. But I do think it's important to kind of take it in really small baby steps and never make it 8 hours the first week that you bring the dog home, because that is how you get the separation anxiety, and then they will remember that for months and months to come, and it's really hard to reverse that thing that they've experienced. The third most important thing that we did with Dakota since bringing her home was doing a lot of socializing with her, but also trying to balance the socializing her with her reactivity. Like I said before, Eurasiers are more reactive dogs just because they are so attached and protective of their humans and their homes. They're easily spooked or stressed by things that are strange to them or outside of the home. It's really important to expose them to a lot of things when they're young, but you also need to balance that with how much you're exposing them to, because it could become overwhelming for them and then be difficult to go back and get them used to those things again. A perfect example of how you balance socializing your dog with reactive dogs is taking them on walks. When we first took her on walks, we would just go out into the street, there'd be tons of other people walking their dogs around, and anytime we saw a dog, we would let her meet the dog because we thought it was a good idea to try to expose her to other dogs and make her more sociable. However, now looking back at that, we've been told by some trainers that that maybe wasn't the smartest thing to do, because now we've programmed Dakota to think anytime we go on a walk, anytime she sees a dog, she gets to meet that dog, and she gets really excited and tries to run up to every dog she sees. So if I could do it all over again, what I would do instead is, rather than allowing her to meet any dog she saw on a walk to socialize her, I would instead set clear boundaries on when she gets to meet dogs and when we're on a walk doing walking training. I would take her to the dog park, and then in the dog park she can meet any dog she wants, can have the best time of her life, and get all of that very crucial socializing with the other dogs. But then when we're on the walks, she would then know that there's a clear separation between dog park, get to meet dogs, we're on the walk, we don't meet dogs, we're just going to be walking around doing our own thing. We are trying now very hard to reverse this thing that we did in the beginning with letting her meet all the other dogs, but slowly over time you might see that she is improving, she's less reactive towards dogs on the walks. It's just really important to make sure the dog knows when they're at the park and when they're on a walk. A few other things that we were sure to socialize her to and expose her to at a very young age were things like other people. From the time she was first day home, we would invite people to the home, of course in moderation. We've had young people, old people, babies, toddlers, children, all ages, all races, big groups, small groups, one-on-one meetings. And all this has been very beneficial because now as she grows older, she gets more wary of people despite all of this exposing. Now what we see is that when people first first joined into the home, she is a little skeptical because this huge crowd came out of nowhere, so she's spooked. She might do a bit of growling, maybe a 1 or 2 barks. But then after that, once she sniffed everybody, she completely calms down. She just hangs out by everybody. She sleeps. She just chills out in the corner. She is a very good dog at social gatherings in our home, and she also behaves this way at other people's houses, minus the barking. She just might stay closer to me or my fiance because that is her family and her comfort zone. And we do see this when we have other gatherings at our home here as well. She will try to stick closer to us during the party. And the last thing that I think was very helpful with socializing her too was public transportation. We had to take it in little steps. Of course, she had to drive home with us in a car when she was very little, so she's always been very used to cars from the day she was born, but we did also want to get her used to trains, trams, and buses. We first started out by just going into a train. We didn't even ride it anywhere. We just went in for 5 minutes and then left again because it hadn't even left the station, and this was a very good exposing process to her. We also did the same with trams and buses, and now she's able to ride on these with no issue. We've also taken her to very crowded, busy streets like in the city or downtown, to outdoor restaurants, to shopping centers that allow dogs, a lot of different environments so that she's used to being in these very busy places and still feels safe and comfortable in them because she's been to them before. And last but not least, I think the most important thing to have when you're having a Eurasier is to establish a very good routine. Eurasiers are very consistent with their routines, and we made sure that Dakota would know hers and be comfortable with it from a very young age. Overall, Dakota's routine starts with, we always wake up in the morning. She is not a morning person, so she likes to wake up anywhere from 8 at the earliest to 9, sometimes 9:30. We'll get up, we'll take her potty, and then we give her breakfast. But because she's not really a morning person, she likes to sleep in still after having her breakfast, so she'll often nap until late afternoon. We of course wake her up around lunchtime, take her out again, then we give her some food, and then she goes right back to her afternoon nap. But because she does spend so much of the morning and early afternoon sleeping, by the time it's 2 or 3 p.m., she's wide awake and wants to spend the rest of the evening playing. So it's at this time that we take her on a really big walk. Our walks are always a minimum of 30 minutes to an hour. I'll just take her all around the neighborhood, or sometimes we'll take her off leash to do frisbee, and that really gets her energy out. After we're done with her walk, we take her back home, and now that she's tired, as she's more relaxed, and we're able to brush her more easily. So we'll start with her grooming, like brushing, taking care of her paws, maybe doing a little training session, and then after that, she's pretty tired, so she drinks a lot of water, and she just goes down for maybe like a quick nap, maybe 30 minutes, nothing more than that, and then she wakes up again, is full of energy. We'll do a big play session with a lot of her toys, then she'll have some dinner. Sometimes we'll give her some meat, some raw meat as a snack late at night. But the rest of the evening is mainly just taking her out to potty when it looks like she needs to go out, playing with her, giving her treats, doing some little training sessions throughout the night. And then around midnight, it's finally her bedtime, so we take her to bed. And that's pretty much been our routine with her since she was little. Even on days when we go to work, one of us will leave very early and come home early around 2 or 3 p.m. because that's when she's waking up from all of her naps and wants her walk anyway. And then the other person might even leave late and come back early so that she's not alone for more than like 6 or 7 hours at the most. That is kind of a big summary of everything that we've learned over the last year taking care of our Eurasier Dakota. It has been a very tough and very long year. This is our first dog that we've ever had together, but I think it was definitely worth it. Her personality is so vibrant. Eurasiers are the most cuddly, social family dogs that I've ever met. They're just so full of love for you. I am just blown away by all of it. I really couldn't imagine our life without Dakota, and I'm so happy she's become such a close and integral part of the family over the last year. If you have any particular questions about the Eurasier breed or what it's like raising them, leave those in the comments below and I'll be happy to get back to you. But other than that, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye guys!